Hey guys, Matt here, coming at you from the BleepinJeep garage. It's another late night. I'm working out here in the shop, and I just posted the video where I cut the Comanche in half, and I felt like I needed to explain a few things. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll also show you what we're doing on the Comanche today, and I'll maybe teach you a few things. Who knows? Stay tuned. Check it out, guys. This is the Comanche as she sits. Now I feel like I've been rushing through these videos and I wanted to explain why. So there's a lot of intricate work going on here. When I did that on the Scorpion, I kind of got very in-depth on bending tube and welding and fabricating, and I lost a lot of people there. So I kind of wanted to stay away from that. This build has gotten a little out of hand, I admit, from what I wanted it to be. But I've been trying to kind of rush through this tube work. But also, the reason I'm trying to rush through it is because I'm trying to make it to Easter Jeep Safari. I was like, dang, that's like in 3 months, and I hadn't even started this Comanche at the time. But I said, sure, let's do it. So I've been in a rush to try to get this thing together. I've been cutting a lot of corners. It's still going to be cool, I think, but there's a lot of things that I would do differently if I had the time. But I want to make that ride. I want to get this done quickly. Like I said, I don't want it to turn into a Scorpion crawler that took me a year and a half to build. So I think getting it done fast will be beneficial for me. It's going to be a headache for the next, well, I've only got, what, 3 weeks now? Something like that. It's getting close. But I think if I push hard, I can get it done. So I'm doing these videos a little bit differently by just kind of giving updates along the way as I go, and kind of showing you tips and tricks and just little updates instead of a full-blown how-to videos on what I'm doing specifically right now. Is just basically bending tube, notching tube, and putting together a roll cage. So when I saw the comments coming in from today's video of me cutting this thing in half, people were saying they really liked where it's going. Of course, some people are frustrated with me cutting a Comanche, but it was a piece of junk anyway. In the last video, I think I showed you how to get that out, or how we did it. It was, this was not a pristine Comanche by any means. So I feel like I'm saving it still. But anyway, the 4-link back here, I just took the CJ as it was, all the links off of it, and made this fit. So it's going to be a little longer than I had anticipated. I think we measured it at like 139 inches or something, the wheelbase. It's going to be really long. But that probably means I'm going to have to get new drive shafts. I was hoping that I could just use the drive shafts and put the axles where they needed to be. But it was either get new drive shafts or new links. So I think it'll be easier just to cut the drive shafts down and rework those to the right length. Plus I like having a long wheelbase rather than a short wheelbase. What else did I do? I bought some spikes for these tubes. Come on, you can focus. There we go. I bought some spikes for these tubes the other day, so I was thinking maybe having this one be a spike and maybe have this one be the tail light. I think that would be really cool. But what I wanted to talk to you about today was a little bit about tube work. So I designed this on paper first. I guess I can show you guys this now because you can pretty much see it. This was what I designed in Photoshop. As you can see, I like to do this. It gives me an idea the way I want to make the tubes beforehand. So I designed this probably 2 months ago, and I've been going off of this drawing to try to get everything that I wanted. So as you can see, it's turning out pretty close, and I think that's very important. If you're going to have a build, you need to know what it's going to look like. And then, so when I do a bend, I write it all out here, and the hard part though is getting it to match on the other side. That's the hardest part. Of course, it's super hard getting the bends correct in the first place, but then it's even harder to get it to match on the other side, because, like, you know, say this tube is coming down here, this is ended up being a 25-degree angle right here. But not only that, it's not just a 25-degree angle straight down, it's a 25-degree angle down and off kilter by 17 degrees. So as you can imagine, that gets really difficult. And then this tube comes down and meets right here, which is where the shock is going to come, so it's going to give more support for the shock. But then if you can imagine, when you do the other side, even if you're 1 degree off, it's going to end up hitting, you know, like 5 inches away from where this tube hits. So if you can imagine, that is a nightmare to try to deal with. At least for me anyway. I'm sure those of you who've been doing it for years and years and years got it down pat. But anyway, let's get to work on some tube. Now I know some of you guys are thinking, I don't need to watch this. I'm never going to do tube work. I'm just going to click away now. But I think you ought to watch it anyway, because you never know. You might be working on a fence one day, and one of these things that you saw in one of these videos might help you out tremendously for something or another. So what I'm talking about right now is putting 2 tubes together. When you do that, you want to sleeve it somehow, either on the outside or the inside in this case. Once we're done with this, you'll never even know that there's a joint right here. The reason I'm putting a joint right here is because you got this long piece of tube that needs to be like 15 feet or something, and you got 5 different bends in all different directions. It's really hard to get them all right. And this way, you've got all these bends coming across here, and then you can make a bend here and tilt it where you need it and then weld it back up. But when you're doing that, you need to sleeve it. So I've cut these sleeves. I usually cut them about 6 inches for this. And if you want it to be strong, what you want to do is drill holes and then plug weld that. So depending on how strong you want it to be, sometimes I'll do 4, sometimes I'll do 2. This is DOM tube. 1 3/4 120 wall, and then this is 1.5 inch tube DOM, although it probably doesn't need to be. One of the tips that I can give you is to draw a line in the middle of this, because sometimes this will be really tight and you won't know where it's at. You won't know how much you've got in there. So now I know that that's about half. Another tip is to bevel the edges always whenever you're welding tube. And I took this and sanded it down a little bit. That way it fits in there really nice. Now I like to use a step bit for just about everything. These things come in so handy, and I use them a lot. So we're going to come back maybe 2 inches or so. We'll drill a couple holes in here. Now you want to get your hole fairly big so that when you weld in there, it actually melts that tube underneath. If the hole is too small, it's not going to do anything. So make sure you put a fairly large hole, about 3/8 of an inch or so. Alright, now look inside that tube. Here's our next problem. This pipe, or this tube, is never going to go in there now. How do we fix that problem? Well, I have a solution for you there too. So just clamp your tube down, find you a drill bit that is exactly the right diameter for the inside, 1.5 inches, or close, and you're just going to drill it out. What we're doing is just knocking off the edges from the bottom of those holes. Now sometimes you'll get one that'll catch real bad. If you do, just put it in reverse and drill it out in reverse. It won't catch and grab and try to break your arm. So now that tube should slide in there nice and snug. Then when you go to weld it up, just make sure you leave a little gap in there so that you weld all 3 tubes and then weld your holes up as well. Now this isn't the tube I'm using, I just use this as an example. Now I'm going to go actually bend the rest of the tube and we will catch up with you in a little bit.